All right, I will call the meeting to order and we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
I make the motion.
Second.
A motion by Ed, seconded by Kelsey to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. None opposed. Approval of the minutes from August 21st, 2025.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion by Kelsey, seconded by Ed to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
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 None opposed. Petitions. We'll start with docket number BOA 09-18-25-01. Jeremy and Cassie or Casey Shield.
Well, good afternoon, Board of Adjustment. I'll be presenting the first request. Number one on the docket today is a request to allow an existing building site, recognizing that it's on a class 3 or considered a prime soil instead of the required class 4 through class 8 soil types. The chapter of the ordinance that this is from is chapter 10.476 of the Winona County Ordinance. And I have to admit that this is somewhat unusual up front because we're dealing with an existing building site. Most of these similar requests are dealing with a proposed new site. In this case, we're looking at an existing 53-acre parcel that's in section 13 of Wiskoy Township. Previous owners went through planning and the permit application process through our office at that time. Since it was over 40 acres, a conditional use permit was not required. And since 90% of the parcel contained non-prime soils, it made the issue around the building site acceptable, or it met that standard. Kind of put in some pictometry photos, kind of in this exhibit that shows where the red circle is, showing the existing house and showing the deep incised valley that is located to the south. And that compromises the considerable percentage of the acreage. There is some pasture land that is also involved on the parcel. Again, another image from pictometry kind of showing the layout of the acreage. There is an existing driveway that transects existing agricultural field from a Wiskoy Township Road. In this case, it's Wiskoy Ridge Road is the official name of the township road. This exhibit shows the soil types. The kind of the cream or beige colored is indicative of showing that it's a prime soil. And in this case, you can see the green highlighted one, that's the area surrounding the house. That is a type 3 soil. The labeling with the blue is a type 2, and then you see again type 3 as you get closer to the road. Just want to point out that when 2011, we accepted the new performance standards of the soil bases. We use the USDA soil classifications for these. The CER, crop equivalency ratings, was part of the weighting that went into that. I can say that the federal definition of that USDA, type 3 is not prime. But when we got to the point of making a final decision on those standards with the county board, there was input from the county board that they were adamant that they wanted type 3s put into that definition. So that is the slight difference compared to the state federal definition of prime soils, is that based on For our purposes, we consider type 3s prime, so that is significant in this request. Just wanted to point that out on behalf of the application. We did get an exhibit proposal from the applicants, and I believe it's, in this case, of 53 acres is proposed. They mentioned in their comments that there's a potential that they might have a buyer for B, which would be the majority of the parcel of the woodland. And then A would be kept as a residential, property with minimal acres. It's not clear yet to me, but I believe that yellow line that they've indicated on their site plan is that they would actually create an easement of access that would still be, if this was approved, to access both A and B. That would be something that the applicants could maybe clarify too. Couple of pictures of the site. This was kind of in Beacon System, County Assessor's Office, just showing the front profile of the house as you come in the driveway. This would be the rear profile or the backyard. That would be facing the south. This would be the view looking to the east. Again, they own just a strip that contains where you see where the mowed lawn is and the crushed rock driveway. The cornfield, the alfalfa, the woods, and then the corn on the right is all neighboring properties, and it's in agricultural production. This is the access point off of the township road. The township road is on the left, and their driveway essentially winds back to the building site that we just seen the photos of. Another shot of the driveway approach. Couple more pictures from different perspectives, showing the driveway, the house. And that's a good view on the right, is showing the woodland or the bulk of the 53 acres as you're looking down deep into that valley setting. Again, agricultural land is flanking it on both sides. Current zoning district is agricultural resource conservation. According to the assessor's breakdown on the land, 11.6 of the acres is considered pasture. They note 1 acre contains the building site with the crushed rock driveway, and 40 plus acres consists of timber and woodland. The driveway of the dwelling is located approximately 800 feet from the township road. So I just wanted to kind of show that perspective. Again, if this variance is approved, the applicants would be required to also apply for a conditional use permit to allow a parcel less than 40 acres. The variance in the CUP, if this was presented as that small parcel originally, would have required those 2 steps in order to create this building site. We received a Wiscoy Township form. They met on August 20th. And on that form, they indicated support for their variance request. Just wanted to highlight a couple things from the staff report, and also it's mentioned in the findings of fact, the chapter 10.476 of soil types states that parcels that are containing dwellings shall consist of type 4 through type 8 soils, according to the soil survey. The intent of that was to prevent the disturbance to prime soils, working agricultural fields and agricultural land. And an applicant could still go forward with a proposal and ultimately build on prime if their equation or their percentage of that parcel was less than 40% when you consider the entire acreage for that. On reviewing the new parcel split and existing location of the house, the way that they proposed the new split is it would be creating a parcel technically that would have 100% of type 3 and type 2 prime soils along with it. That changes also the permitting status to that of what was a permitted use when they originally got the permit in 2015 to then the conditional use permit criteria as we review this type of situation. Proposed split of the existing home site will result in no more further disturbance of prime tillable soils based on the apparent existing conditions. Put that comment in there because we're dealing with the status quo, really not changing anything based on to allow consideration of their proposal.
Question on that. It's not a huge amount of acreage, but if somebody were to actually wanna do some kind of farming on those 4 acres, does a existing or another disturbance of prime soils, barns or animal housing or anything, none of that would be allowed without another variance or?
No, we'd still have to look at setbacks from other neighboring dwellings, and in this case, looking at the vicinity, I believe they're, for like livestock and setbacks, there doesn't appear to be a visible, issue with
Okay.
the feedlot setbacks.
So if they wanted to just do, say, like 40 chickens or something and have a little chicken house, that would be okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, we
But you
wouldn't be
couldn't build
changing-
Another house.
correct. We wouldn't be changing the zoning district. That overriding district is always gonna be agricultural resource
Right.
conservation.
I just didn't know where like the line was between disturbance of prime tillable soils allowed and not in terms of buildings or structures. But if they're agricultural,
Yep,
it's okay.
it-
All right.
It's just, we get hung up on that acreage, and then we look at just the acreage within that site as far as what's prime and what's not prime, so.
Okay.
As mentioned, economic conditions or reasons have been the leading set of comments as it pertains to this. In that, they've, received feedback from prospective, people looking at the property. In, dividing the dwelling with minimal acreage is probably more appealing to some clients than others. And they do state that maximizing the value of this sale is, probably the leading cause. For that, there could be alternative methods to divide that. It just means they'd have to recapture more of the woodland or more of that non-prime and make that proposed split with the house much larger. When I say much larger, they'd have to get the percentage where it's only 40% of that type 3, and then they'd have to have at least 60% or more of that. What that equation would look like, you could sit there and pencil that out in a lot of different scenarios. Staff has identified conflict with this request as it pertains to findings 6 and 7, and therefore recommended denial. Should the Board of Adjustment, as they go through your public review process, have the public hearing, collect data, if you do make a decision to approve this variance, staff has recommended 4 conditions that would be appropriate to include in on that. Legal has reviewed the application and therefore has also had an accompanied findings of fact that goes along with it. And it would be, essentially following staff's recommendation of denial too. So that would need to be altered or changed should you deviate from that. With that, I'll take any questions and before I turn it over to the public hearing.
Would this variance apply only to the new 4 acre parcel then?
Yes,
But the remaining 49 acres, would that be a buildable?
no, not unless that came forward with a separate process. And then, because of the lack of road frontage that they have, and now you have a potential easement. I don't know with that original track of that farm, whether we get into subdivision regulations. But there's those number of other factors that would have to be looked at before that would even be considered as a buildable site. But as an action like this happens, you tend to get a lot of different, interests, and that may spur additional requests too. That should be on your mind, I guess, when you're considering this.
Because there wouldn't be a less than 40 acres issue with that divided parcel, but we would just be talking about road frontage or subdivision regulations possibly.
Correct, and then we get into some steep slopes and some bluff land too, when we're looking with that, or the remainder of that parcel.
Cause this existing house is basically the highest point of the property.
Yes. Yep.
Is the easement already there for the driveway and stuff?
No, I
or is
believe
that-
it's a self-contained parcel at this point, all the way out to the public road, out to the
So-
township road.
If it is in fact split and sold separately, how does that work in terms of like, is it in just like the purchase agreement?
Easements are
No matter who owns what?
private agreements between the property owners that have them. That's technically, when we used to require hundred and 75 feet for every buildable parcel, but then in 2011, that got changed where in lieu of that, as long as they had a 33-foot easement that abutted a public road, that became acceptable as long as they met the driveway standards.
Eric, we know that variances should be granted when the applicant demonstrates that there are practical difficulties in complying with the provisions of the zoning ordinance. Is that correct?
Yes,
What are the practical difficulties in this case?
that's for your board to discern.
You being what I'll call an expert in planning and understanding the zoning ordinance. From your perspective, what are the practical difficulties of the applicant complying with the terms of the zoning ordinance?
The practical difficulties would be that you could, I guess maybe just for discussion purposes, previous owners came forward with the original building plans. They were given a set size and location and circumstances with the property. Now, I believe this property is transferred at least a couple of times. And you could always hear the statement that they were not involved with the original conception of how large the parcel was. And, that might be ideal for some parties, but it may not be ideal for others. Other than that, as I mentioned, it seems to be economically based. That was, I think, from reading the comments in the application, why staff's recommendation is why it is, so.
So essentially, we have the need for the variance arising because the property owner wants to divide the property,
Mhm.
correct?
Correct.
And the property owner essentially appears to want to divide the property for economic benefit, which certainly is understandable, but still it's for economic benefit. Is that
For-
correct?
Correct. And I mean, the original one went through a permitted process. So after administrative review, it met the guidelines. It's issued over the counter administratively. It had no public review process.
And then let me be clear that it is the staff's recommendation that the variance be denied. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
So what happens if it's denied? Does the party, they want to sell it, it sounds like,
Mhm.
in two parts. So if it's denied, is it just that they would have to sell it all in one?
That's one
swoop?
option. It could be sold as is in its entirety. Second would be is they could meet include enough rough acres with that to meet the variance prime soil standard. However, if it'd be less than 40 acres, they'd still be looking at the conditional use permit process if the house is to be proposed less than 40 acres. So that part would not be alleviated by that action. So there is options, I guess.
So this part B subject property. Is there, it doesn't sound like a house could be built on that.
It would be difficult, to
So-
locate a septic and, meet slope criteria and be outside the bluff area. There would be some difficulty with exploring that as a building site.
Do we know what sounds like they might have a buyer possibly? Do we know what
I would direct that question to the petitioners.
Excuse me, could you go back to this picture with A and B sorted out? Please. Thank you. So you see where B is,
Mm-hmm.
the actual letter B,
Mhm.
and the edge of that woodland? Is that is that prime soil between the blue line for A and the curve of the woodland where B situates right now?
I don't believe so. I'd look back at the soil map that's in your staff report, but it starts, there's a sharper decline at this point. It starts to become steeper slopes. Therefore, the soil types are probably gonna go up, or they're gonna be considered lower,
Right.
lower value.
Right, so, would that meet the percentage?
That would have, it would be really variable depending
I
on,
don't know yet.
correct, yeah.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions for Eric? Thanks. Steve?
I just wanted to let you know that the definition of practical difficulties is in statute. It is part of our zoning ordinance as well. But it's 462.357, which basically says practical difficulties as used in connection with the granting of a variance means the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the zoning ordinance. The plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner, and the variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality. Economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulties. Practical difficulties include inadequate access to sunlight for solar energy systems, and goes on to talk about earth-sheltered buildings, but that's the main gist of it. It's a little, those are the sort of the elements to determine if you're trying to figure out if something fits the definition of practical difficulties. It's those three things.
Thanks, Steve. All right, would the petitioner like to come up and explain this to us?
Chad Garteski, I'm the real estate agent representing the petitioners. They're out of state.
When you're done with those, if you can just say your name and address into the microphone for us, just for the record.
Chad Garteski, 1650 Lilac Lane, Byron, Minnesota.
Thanks. All right, you can kind of fill us in on anything that the staff report didn't include, or we can
Yeah.
fire some questions at you too.
First of all, just to put a little more color on the surroundings there, that driveway, if you flip to this page here. That driveway already has 3 other easements on it for properties that are further to the east, so it's being used as a thoroughfare and as legal access to like 3 other properties. So there's already an easement there. That's one thing I just want to clarify. The question came up from someone about if it needs to be an easement, and there is an easement there. It could just be assigned to parcel B. So it's not creating something that's not already there.
So it's not like if they sell that property and they don't include the easement's gone. It's,
Either way, there's 3 existing easements going right down that
Okay.
driveway right now.
There
okay,
would
so
need
those
to
other
be-
easements aren't gone because that property.
Correct. Yep, they're already
Stay
there.
with the
Yep.
property
So
forever.
they just take the legal description of that easement and assign it up to this point right
Okay.
here to provide access to that property.
Okay,
So it's not like we're creating something new there.
okay. So they never go away. They're there.
Yeah, those are perpetual easements. Yeah.
Oh,
Yep. Well, the other thing I'll point out is the sellers didn't intend to do this initially. They started off with the intent of selling the entire property, and neighbors began approaching them wanting to buy parts and pieces. And that's what brought this whole thing on, is that the two parts are worth more than the whole by something to the tune of $45,000, $43,000, something like that. And there's existing offers on both pieces already split. Now, they obviously can go away because it's contingent upon the variance getting passed and the conditional use getting issued. But that wasn't their intent. Their intent wasn't to do this.
For the bigger part that says Part B,
Yep.
do you know what the possible, like, as you said, there's two offers on that?
There's an offer on B and there's an offer on A,
Okay.
yes.
Do you know what they intend to use B for? Like, are they gonna hunt?
Recreation, hunting recreation.
Okay.
Yep.
So it wouldn't be used probably any differently other than, I don't know, if Part A hunts, but.
You can't
It-
guarantee that going into the future, but no, and there's
There's
not
not
really
gonna
any
be-
practical build sites there either, plus the cost of additional driveway getting to where there would be a build site is just, I wouldn't promote that property in that manner.
So the woodland would probably stay woodland and.
Yeah, it drops off very steep.
Yeah,
both
it kind of looks
directions.
like it's pretty steep.
Yeah.
So in essence, whoever buys A and somebody else buys B, aside from all the legalities, the use isn't gonna be different than what it is now.
Correct. Use doesn't change. The other thing I wanted to point out is that the gentleman that made the offer on B is the one that kind of created this map. And if we change the map to include more acreage with A, that offer will go away. He won't buy it. He's essentially buying it to keep the people that are buying A out of the woods. If that makes sense. That's why it's drawn the way it is. To minimize disturbance to the woods.
So does he own the surrounding property then?
He owns a number of properties around the area.
But not necessarily bordering?
No, I actually own some of the bordering piece. I own here myself. He owns where this narrow strip comes across. He owns all this over here, all this other woods on this side. And that easement also serves two of his parcels that are back there
Okay.
further to the east. So he's essentially adding on to what he already has back there.
So is there a gravel driveway going to his land or? is it
It's
like-
just a field
just a
drive that
field
goes
road?
down. You can kind of see it there and it goes out into here.
Okay.
And then there's an easement that goes straight across to this parcel right here as well. Once you get back here, there's several other parcels. And then those parcels connect to Highway 76 on the bottom.
Okay.
They've got road frontage back there. The other,
He
Go-
can access it then even from that bottom corner, cause he's got that little sliver.
yes, he could
Okay.
come, technically, he could come across here, yes.
Okay.
Yep, so technically legally, he doesn't need that either. But it's already there.
So as a landowner, he understands that he could build a property line fence anywhere to divide the property he would buy from the property someone else would buy to keep people off his property. And that line fence must be paid for by both landowners
Yep.
equally.
Yep, he's aware of the fence laws,
Okay.
absolutely. It's just that if you have a border out in the open, it is a little easier to monitor and
Is that B towards A line where it shows no woodland? Is that now grown in or is that
it's
indeed
tall
open?
grass, some brush, that sort of thing.
Oh,
Prior to them building the house here, this was all CRP. It was on 2 CRP contracts and 4 CRP. It was in the older program, the soil bank, I believe. So it was a mess. There's a lot of box elders and stuff like that. They're all cleaned up and it's starting to grow back in now.
Okay.
Has not been farmed in 30 years or more. The one question I had is pertains to the wording on the prime soils. Does someone have that exact statute? Yeah, do you want to read it?
Sure. 462.357 subdivision 6(2). Practical difficulties as used in connection with the granting of a variance means the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the zoning ordinance. Plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner, and the variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality.
I think you're looking for the prime
I'm looking for
soil.
the prime soil,
Soils.
but
Yeah.
that fits kind of what I'm trying to point out as well.
Well, there was more to it though, right, Steve?
Yeah, there's something in there about it disturbing prime cells. That's the verbiage I'm looking for. It's from the actual ordinance. I forget what statute it is. I think you might have it right there now. I'm looking at it. As far as
Oh.
it means. Yeah. So the variance is there to prevent the disturbance of prime soils. I think everyone agrees with that. But the house is already there. Nothing's changing in terms of disturbance of soils. So that was a point the sellers wanted me to make. The other thing I wanted to point out on the last page of my handout there, and I believe, it was alluded to already, is that the definition of prime soils where the house sits, the definition that I would use in terms of marketing soils, that would not be prime soils. If you look at that heat map on there, prime soils are typically blue and green and they're an 80 CPI or higher. The location where the house sits is not what most people in this day and age would consider prime soils. On that heat map, I've got the house drawn into the little square there, or the approximate location of the house.
Any other questions for the applicant's representative? No, thank you.
Thank you.
I would entertain a motion to open the meeting to the public.
So move.
A second.
We have a motion by Ed, seconded by Amy to open the meeting to the public. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Meeting is now open to the public. If anyone would like to speak for or against this request, you can come to the microphone and state your name and address. The second time, if anyone would like to speak for or against this variance request, please come forward to the microphone or unmute yourself online and state your name and address. For the third time, if anyone would like to speak for or against this request, please come forward and state your name and address. All right, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing then.
I'll move.
Second.
We have a motion by Lynn, seconded by Ed to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
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 All in favor? All right, discussion.
So I'll open it up and essentially state that I have great respect for the expertise and the professionalism of the staff. And I also have high admiration for the county's zoning ordinance. And I don't believe this would be an appropriate variance to grant for the reasons recited in the staff report, that the issue here is not unique to the property, but the need for the variance is actually has been created by the owners for their understandable desire to maximize the economic value of their property. The property is clearly marketable. It's valuable. Presumably, although I don't know this for a fact because I have no expertise in real estate, presumably it is more valuable divided. However, the applicant has not established practical difficulties. The variance can also be alleviated by other means as recited by Eric. And for those reasons, to adhere to the provisions of the county's zoning ordinance and follow the expertise and professionalism of the planning staff, I believe the variance should be denied.
I would be curious, since they don't really know how big of a parcel A would have to be in order to not need a variance. I don't. Right now, they could split it however they wanted if they just were able to move the line like 2 more acres or something like that, sell it. Still as a 40-acre parcel and then as like a 11-acre parcel or something like that. Doesn't sound like anybody would know the answer until they actually ran a scenario or something.
Yeah, and I mean,
Um,
it would be possible for another, a different request to come to us.
Right.
That would be more in line with, what the county's asking for.
Right. And I do agree. The petitioners and the realtor didn't really stipulate anything except economic gain. And they had an opportunity to give us other reasons.
Well, I noticed that also the recommendation or one of the opinions from the planning commission is that this variance could be alleviated by a reasonable method. So there is the possibility, as I understand it, to make this still marketable as the owners would like to do, but in a different way, even though it may perhaps, as you said, come back to this board.
And there, yeah, and I think there might be a way to parcel it to where the potential purchaser of property B would still be happy with the section they got because they didn't have to deal with A or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, and the other issue is there's still a CUP here
Mhm.
ahead of us that is likely gonna have economic considerations listed as the practical difficulties as well. The only difference with the CUP is that could be overridden by the county board. It's not necessarily a decision by the planning commission like what we have here. But I agree with what Ed said in general. Was that meant to be a motion?
I could make it a motion. It was meant to stimulate discussion.
Okay.
I think too, the only thing I would say is I don't see practical difficulties here other than the potential of them not initially selling it separately, but selling it whole and then having somebody come to them and ask them for a specific chunk and having them be like, oh, I guess we could split it, you know, and then realizing they would make more money that way. So practical difficulty could be that somebody wanted this chunk, but not the house, and it was worth them looking into it. I'm not saying that that's a reason, I'm just looking at it from that perspective. In terms of the person that would want to purchase B.
Given all the possibilities,
Right.
I think what is clear to me now is that the economic considerations are clear. And that the recommendations from the planning commission,
The staff.
the staff, are indeed valid and trustworthy. And so I would agree with Ed that the variance be denied.
So I'll make Lynn, I'm
Well,
sorry.
I was just gonna, more of a puzzlement. Why economic situations aren't valued more highly in making a decision?
Because that's what the zoning ordinance recites, and I assume
So are we bound?
that's
by-
also based on state statute, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So as a board, we're bound to follow that then?
So the statute basically says that economic considerations can't be the only practical difficulty, so to speak. So if there's other things, economic considerations could be taken into account, but they can't be the only reason for granting the variance.
Well, I guess, if we're bound to follow that rule, I guess there's not much we can change.
So I make a,
And I do respect the board for the county employees and what they know their job, so go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt. you.
I'll make a motion that the variance request be denied and that the findings of fact, specifically finding number 4, recite that the variance request is not due to special circumstances or circumstances unique to the property and is created by the owners of the property since the enactment of the ordinance. Number 6, the finding would read applicant has not established practical difficulties in complying with the terms of the Winona County zoning ordinance. And finding number 7, the variance can be alleviated by a reasonable method other than a variance and is not the minimum variance which would alleviate the practical difficulty.
Steve, do we need separate motions to change those findings of fact?
You could do it in one motion if everybody agrees to all of them, but if people want to vote on them differently, that would be up to you whether you want to do them individually or all at once.
Okay, thank you. So do we have a second to the motion as Ed has made it?
I would second the motion.
We have a motion by Ed, seconded by Amy to deny the variance with changes to was that number 4?
4, 6, and 7.
Okay. Which would then exclude the conditions. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, that is all in favor. So that variance is denied, and I will read the appeal to the district court. All decisions by the Board of Adjustment in granting variances or in hearing appeals from any administrative order, requirement, decision, or determination shall be final, except that any aggrieved person or persons or any department, board, or commission of the jurisdiction or of the state shall have the right to appeal within 30 days after the receipt of the notice of decision to the district court in the county in which the land is located on questions of law and fact. Any party that would like to submit an appeal to the decision just rendered at this public hearing must do so to the district court. The planning department is not responsible for filing the appeal. All right. With that, we will move on to docket number BOA 09-18-2502. And that is the petition of Daniel Heyer and Kathy Heyer and Robert Heyer. Lou,
Take it away.
yes, please.
Okay. Well, good afternoon. As you indicated, we have a variance here from the property owners, Daniel and Kathy Heyer, and Daniel's son, Robert, who is the petitioner asking for this variance. It's a 2-for-1. There's 2 variances in this. One is from the prime soil standard. And the second one is from a feedlot setback. Location of this petition is in the northwestern corner of New Hartford Township. You can see the parcel here with the proposed 2-acre split in yellow. That's where the proposed dwelling would be located, with 4 acres remaining on that parcel. Again, in section 6, New Hartford Township, you can see in the inset map below where that is in the county. It's along County Road 12. Property is accessed from Sunnyside Road, which is a dead-end township road. And you can see I-90 there coming through just west of the Nodine interchange. Again, Sunnyside Road, Township Road is where they propose to access the site from. This map shows the neighboring feedlot at the end of the road, which is currently the only property accessed from Sunnyside Road, a farmstead at the end of the road there. The neighboring feedlot has been registered for different numbers over the years, and that's varied between 21 and 82 animal units. Currently, it is just over 50 animal units, and so the setback requirement is 1,000 feet, as opposed to if it was 50 animal units, between 10 and 50 animal units, it would be a 500-foot setback. So again, the current numbers there are just over that 50 mark, and so a 1,000-foot setback would apply. The proposed dwelling, you can see 100 by 62 feet is the dimensions that they have, and you can see the 205-foot setback from the feedlot. The feedlot is all the way up to the property line, should be noted. So as far as hemming them in, not being able to expand, they wouldn't be able to expand further than that direction regardless. And the expansion areas would be, to the north. And so this wouldn't impact that specifically. Regarding prime soils, you're looking at class 2 soils on the building site location, and that make up the majority of the property. And the existing field there, you can see, is under cultivation and is part of a corn and bean rotation. It's currently in beans at the moment. Seed and salt loam is the soil type. Have a couple photos here to give you an idea of the lay of the land. First one is looking straight from Sunnyside Road across the proposed building site. You can see some existing structures in the background, and the bean field beyond where the building site has been mowed there. And then the picture on the right is essentially the same thing, but you can see the residential dwelling off of County Road 12 in that picture, and semi out on I-90 to give you an idea of scale and location. A couple more pictures just looking the other way down Sunnyside Road towards from the access point towards the farmstead and the feedlot in the background there. And then going the other way down Sunnyside Road, and you can see the interchange with County Road 12. The petitioners attended the August 14th township meeting, and the township did indicate that they were in support of the request. Regarding notification, we have not heard any comments beyond the township acknowledgement form, so neighbors have not, who were notified have not been in touch with us. So no further comments. Looking at the criteria, there are a number of criteria that we had trouble making findings and support for. Criteria 2, 3, 4, and 7 is what staff would draw your attention to specifically. Criteria 2 involves comprehensive plan. And then criteria 3, 4, and 7 are getting at the question of practical difficulties from different angles. So when you look at those criteria, you're getting at whether a 205-foot setback from a 1,000-foot requirement is reasonable. Whether the circumstances here are unique to the property, not created by the property owner. And whether the practical difficulty can be alleviated by a reasonable method. Again, we had a little bit of discussion for the last petition about what practical difficulties mean, what is reasonable and what is not, what is unique and what is not. I just wanted to throw out there, and I think Steve can probably talk a little bit further on it, but we're trying to figure out when you're talking about is it unique, if the same problem affects all properties in the area, that's not a unique circumstance, and maybe we should be looking at a zoning change or something like that instead. Is it merely an inconvenience or not? Is it unique to the property, such as is it due to the shape or topography or natural features on the property? Those would all be examples. If you could tie it to something like that, that would be something that would be unique and could be a practical difficulty. And then reasonable, just want to point out, it does not mean that it can that it should be shown that the land has no other reasonable use. So that's not the standard. It's just, is it reasonable in this regard to allow a setback of 205 feet as opposed to the required 1,000. So those are issues that you're grappling with in this petition. And I guess if you have questions or want to talk through that, we can try to do that.
Question. In number 7, where you said it cannot be alleviated by a reasonable method, it does include areas that have not been cultivated. Can you point out those on there, or where you were thinking those would?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the 6-acre parcel, you can see there are on the western side of the parcel, there are areas that are currently being used. There's a couple of storage facilities. The petitioner has indicated that those are used by his father, so the property owner. So I think they have some reasons why that wasn't desirable for them. I think also looking at the access from the township road, obviously the gravel road versus County Road 12 is a much slower and less trafficked property to access the property from. So there are some different aspects to that, but and then there's the 4-acre parcel that's the 4-acre portion of the property that's under cultivation. So, is it reasonable to develop a portion of that? And that can also get to the comprehensive plan piece, whether that's an adequate justification or not, So.
And there's a 40-acre CUP associated with this as well.
Yeah, and that should be noted as well, is that this is on the agenda for tonight's planning commission meeting. If you were to approve the petition, they would still be before the planning commission. They'd be considering a conditional use permit for a new, dwelling on less than 40 acres.
And so does the amount that they wanna put on the proposed dwelling include the driveway as well? Cause that's taking stuff out of production, correct? And then is there anything having to do with that road that as far as like a driveway, or like, is it regularly plowed as a road, or is it also a driveway?
Sunnyside Road is a township road. New Hartford Township does maintain it. I would assume that they do, plow that, to the end. And maybe the applicants can speak better, to that maintenance, but yeah, I would assume so.
Any other questions for Lou?
I guess well, I'll ask though, the owner.
Okay, thanks, Lou.
Thank you.
Would the applicant like to address the board? State your name and address first, please.
My name is Robert Heyer. I reside at 467 West 10th here in Winona. Fair enough. Documents for you guys to look at.
Thank you.
Just, yeah, the map for you.
Okay, good afternoon. Yeah, my name is Bob Heyer. I'm a country boy, honestly looking to try to get back to the ridge. Grew up on a 300+ acre farm, just outside of Ridgeway, Pleasant Hill Township. We put this application in, started the process about a year ago and kind of have been going through the motions. What I prepared for you is honestly the Board of Adjustment approval criteria or responses to them. So obviously I'm not going to go through everything, one by one, but as it pertains to criteria number 2, you guys wrote it. I don't need to go through and read it, but stated in there, the comprehensive plan encourages locating rural housing development away from recognized agricultural areas and into areas with marginal agricultural soil and adjacent to existing cities where urban services can easily be extended and conflicts with agricultural uses minimized. So there's a lot of instances in Winona County today where some of them ongoing, some of them that date back months. There's a property along County Road 15, which is Homer Ridge Road, which today that property was 2015, I believe, which would be after this variance was approved or the zoning ordinance was put into place. Is that correct? 2014 is the year that the 2011, so well after, right? 4 years after. There's a property there where in the attachments, I pointed out and pulled from Beacon some of the properties, and you can see clearly, especially in that first example, attachment 1, that used to be a field and somebody turned it into not a field. Now, don't know what the soil types were. I don't have enough education to go and find all of that, but looking at the feedlots as we go through, I did pull some of that information. Right along that same road, Stephen and Margaret Gurnis Trust location. Not sure if it's currently still under construction. It was, I know, as of this summer at some point. But again, if you look at the topography off of Beacon, that used to be a field. Last one, and this is actually a family member, Brett and Kayla Martin, attachment number 3, Nagle Ridge Drive. They are in part of a field. In conversing with him, getting ready for this, they were required to, your 60-40 rule or whatever you guys had in that last one, they kind of had to follow that and put part of the property on untillable or not currently tilled cultivated soils. But at the end of the day, part of that property is also in a field. That's no longer
When you use the term phrase in a field, does that mean?
cultivated, tillable. Yep.
And with all of these attachments, you don't know the types of soil involved.
I don't specifically. I do look at, obviously, I grew up in the area, so I kind of know where things are at and some of the locations. But yes, you're correct. I don't know specifics on soil types. Bullet point number 2 also recommends that local decisions should support maintaining and sustaining the vitality of family farms. This is not a family farm. It never has been since the early 90s that my grandfather purchased the property. He has leased it, and I know the neighboring gentleman is here today, and I don't know if he's owned it for the entire duration that my grandfather owned it, but at the end of the day, at any point in time, my dad, my grandpa could have pulled the plug and said, yeah, we're just not going to farm it anymore, and there it would have sat. Maybe today we would have been better off doing that 10 years ago, because then we probably wouldn't be having the conversation. So looking at the stewardship goals, trying to use that property for good use, make sure that it's doing something of good, was kind of the intent, obviously. The last point on there, the location in such close proximity, the 205 instead of the 1,000 feet, not minimizing potential conflicts with neighboring agricultural. Lou kind of pointed it out as well, that property line, that feedlot line butts right up to the adjoining property. Anything that would be expanded would be to the north, away from our proposed parcel. So really, we're not interfering with him and his plans or what he wants to do. And not noted in here, but I'll also throw in there, the 205 feet in the exact location is somewhat negotiable, right? We put it where we put it because of the setback requirements from the center of road, Sunnyside, and the setback requirements from the property to the south, which is my grandfather's estate. So we kind of picked that spot A because it's on a higher point, meaning less excavation. But, you know, if there's a difference between 205, 250, 300, there's things that can be done there. We're just trying to get through this process first. The second bullet point underneath there, attachment number 3, again, pointing to the Martin properties on Nagle Ridge. They've had that farm since I was a kid, grew up there, babysitting their kids. Right next door, within 250 feet, there is a 254 head of cattle, total animal units feedlot registered there right now. I looked at the feedlot as it sits today. It looks like the Weiser farm is slated at 68. So way more head of cattle, about the same distance. Never had a problem with it. You know what you're getting into when you move to the country. You know the sight, sound, smells, and all the things that come with it. Bullet point number 3, the soil. I believe that's what we're talking about here. Yeah. The biggest thing that I have here is that the overall property is not for sale. If you look at that whole 2 acres, you know, to the west here, that's currently being utilized, right? He's doing something with it. My dad's about 67, 68 years old, due to retire here, hopefully. But at the end of the day, he still wants to do something with it. So we're not looking to purchase the whole thing, but we want to get up there to help with things. He's an over-the-road truck driver today. Go up there in the winter to Bobcat and plow out snow for both this property as well as my dad's property a little further down to the west on County Road 12. But at the end of the day, a lot of this is the soil statement. So, and the 205 feet, again, being not a reasonable request. As I go through this, there's all kinds of easements. If we changed what we're trying to buy, we would pretty much have to lop off that line fence, and we would landlock my dad in there, right? If you drew a line here, there's a driveway right here that you don't see. Let's just say this is probably the biggest piece that people are looking at. If we drew a line here and built here, right? We're landlocking him back here. And he has no access to his property without an easement or other things.
Run that by me
Yeah.
again.
Yep.
An easement,
So if I purchased, instead of this, and we purchased, there's about 1.2-ish acres right here in this section, the line fence sits about right here. Shed here, driveway right here. If we lop this off and we bought this piece, we're not looking at buying this, we wanna buy this. If we change what we're trying to propose because the county is against the soil and the feedlot requirement, I'm landlocking my dad in here. If I buy back here,
unless you give them an easement.
correct. Yes, correct.
Okay.
Same thing, vice versa. We would have to do something more and come back before you guys again to figure out how we make that happen. So right now, this is the easiest way to get what we are looking for, to get back onto the ridge, to help out with the family, but not hurt what he's doing and trying to build our own homestead here. Bullet point 2, again, if you go back to that attachment number 3, and you start talking about the 205 feet, the 1,000-foot setback, the initial house, Betty and Brian Martin, is 250 feet from the Brown feedlot just to the east. Additionally, in 2018, my cousin Brett Martin, who is just to the west of Brian and Betty Martin, and you can kind of see both of those highlighted there. He's about 780 feet, 760 maybe I got in there. So he's still within that 1,000-foot setback on, again, now a 250 total animal units feedlot, much larger than what we're currently dealing with. And it is dairy, where the Weiser farm is beef. So they're milking, they're doing lots of things there. There's
By the Weiser farm, you mean the farm
right.
above?
Yes,
I'm
I'm
gonna
sorry.
say of
Sorry.
that. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
So with that one, there's again, multiple instances throughout the county. And that's what those other attachments are, where that 1,000-foot setback isn't reasonable as stated in here. But then I guess I beg the question, what is reasonable? There's instances where 250 feet, if you look at Nathaniel and Shanna Clowitter, adjacent to their, I believe their brother or family member, Joel and Lori Clowitter, is 250 feet. Brandon and Brenda Frickson, adjacent to his son Andy and Darian, is 261 feet. Elizabeth Oliver and Justin Carroll, a little bit further to the east out on County Road 3, adjacent to Dick Rigger Family Trust, 390 feet. Dan and Kathy Heyer, who is my dad and stepmom, adjacent to Brett and Bonnie Frickson, 535 feet. Ben and Amy Vanderzee, adjacent to James and Sheila McNally on McNally Ridge Road, 839 feet. So I guess when I start looking at all these reasonable or unreasonable, there's no definition to it. And I understand it's more so at discretion, but there's existing properties and allowed variances for pretty much the same exact thing that I'm looking for that are visible and viewable in the county today.
Do we know how many animal units each of these feedlots that you say are adjacent at these lengths? Do we know what they are? How many animal units?
I didn't look into I looked to see that there were registered feedlots. I didn't necessarily look at every one of them to know the size. In looking at a handful of them, if you look at the Frickson, bullet point 2 there, they have a lot of head of cattle there. And yes, I understand it's his dad and that's where they sold and then built to, but it's still the same process, still the same variance needed, right? You look at some of these other ones and you might only have 50 or less than where they're having to fight with, essentially.
Do you know if any of these individuals or couples, it looks like, are employees of the feedlot?
I do not believe any of them are, no. I know all but one of these people on here, and they are not employed of that feedlot. So you're not running an instance where it's another housing to help support that property.
Can I stop you for a second there? Would staff or legal like to address what we're exactly allowed to consider, as far as these other parcels go?
So the problem is it's hard to know what you can decipher from this limited bit of information. You'd have to look at the findings of facts for each of those variance requests and see what the issues are and what the practical difficulties were stated as. You know, I sympathize looking through Beacon and seeing ones that are close to feedlots, but that doesn't mean that they were facing the same issues that are similar to this petition. But you should decide each one on its own merit and just in the circumstances that are before you. Yeah, I guess that's it.
So let me make sure I understand what you're saying is, we don't know what was presented to provide any variances on the exhibit that's been handed to us, if there were variances at all. And we have what is in our record that we should be looking at, in addition to the testimony from the planning staff and the applicant.
Exactly, yes.
Thanks, Steve.
Mhm.
Last bullet point on there, again, site sounds within distance of feedlot, not anything that I haven't encountered before in my life. Not anything that you don't encounter when you drive across County Road 12 or any of the roads up there. So I know what I'm getting myself into. So really just kind of pointing that out. Criteria 4, not unique in the uniqueness specifically. Completely, you know, as you guys have said, appreciate the staff's position. You know, they have their job to do and lay everything out, but I guess it's based on the, you know, more based on the proximity of the feedlot, not unique. Respectfully, the location of the feedlot itself is really what's creating this here. I mean, if it weren't for that, you would still have the class 2, class 3 soils, but then I would revert back to the fact that that's being used, that's not. Additionally, again, the voluntary use of that, family has owned that property, that chunk of property for 30+ years, and at any point we could have pulled the plug on using it as cultivated tillable land. And if we did that 10 years ago, we'd probably be in a better spot today.
Well, it'd still be considered prime soils.
Correct, completely understand, but there is a clause in the zoning ordinance where it states if it hasn't been in production essentially in 10 years, then it kind of creates a different probably look at it, I would assume. Again, that just kind of goes through the same stuff. 0.7, variance can't be alleviated by another reasonable method. Again, there's no unused areas of the parcel. There's certain portions that aren't being cultivated, are not being used as tillable today. Still technically sits on class 2 soils, but obviously not being used for production. You have a very small window there, and that creates other issues, like I mentioned. The scope of the variance request reflects carefully, considered all of our options when we went in to look at this. But we do believe that this request represents minimum variance needed to accomplish what we're trying to do. And like I said, that's really just trying to get back on the ridge, trying to help my family, trying to build a homestead and get out of town. Much rather be in the county than in the city. No offense to anybody in the city, but I've been here for 20+ years. Much prefer being on the ridge. So
Is the proposed dwelling that just the house or does that include a yard?
That includes the garage. And again, we don't have exact, it's probably pretty close to what it would look like. The intent would probably be to leave the north side of that open, at least for a period. Obviously, you're gonna have septic and all that type of stuff that has to go in as well. But the intent is to leave a section untouched, essentially, where the rest of that can still be cultivated, still used for production.
What is the status of that parcel now?
Which one? I'm sorry.
The one where the proposed dwelling is gonna be?
It's a field. It's just a bean and corn rotation field like Lou had mentioned.
And when you say it hasn't been cultivated, it actually has been.
No. I'm saying this area here is the only section and a little bit over here, which does not amount to much. Those are the only two sections on the property that are not cultivated.
Thank you.
Everything else is yard, and this is my grandfather's estate. This pasture has been sitting dormant for some time, but my parents don't own my grandparents' estate, so they can't make the decisions on that.
And they're not willing to sell you a portion of each so you could build a house?
On the front, on the south part there. It's possible. There's a few more people that have to get involved in that, which creates some issues in and of itself. So we would like to go this route if at all possible to try to accomplish the goal that we set out for.
And your grandparents' estate, is that just sitting empty? and
No,
unused?
my grandfather's wife still lives there, and she has the right to live there until she chooses not to. I mean, she's early, mid-70s, so you never know. Could be a few years, could be 20 years.
And does she have the right to sell the property?
No, she does not. It is an estate that's, whatever the term is for it, there's multiple people that have to come to an agreement on that.
With some kind of
Trust.
trust?
It's not even a trust, it's sitting in a will and that hasn't been executed yet, so.
Any other questions for the applicant? No. All right, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right, do we have a motion to open the meeting to the public?
I make the motion.
Second,
We have a motion by Ed, seconded by Kelsey to open the meeting to the public. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All any opposed? Hearing none, the meeting is now open to the public. If anyone would like to speak for or against this petition, please come forward, state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Steve Weezer. I own the farm they're talking about there. I just like to reply about what Bobby was just saying about all these feedlots next door that aren't 500 feet or whatever. They were built many, many years ago before these ordinances were made, just so you realize that. And also, we just reapplied our feedlot, and there's 150 head on our application now, I mean, our feedlot. We reapplied it, we redid it. There's 150 head there. And I bought that farm in 1999, the urban farm there, 1999. And I rented that piece of, well, from Bobby's grandpa for last 26 years. Every year I've been up there, I've been renting that land. It's been on the farm. So Bobby knows that.
And the land you're pointing to is the land in.
Bobby, that they got the proposed dwelling, yeah. I've been renting that land every year since I've been up there. Usually it was from Bobby's grandpa, but he's not there no more. And they didn't used to have that. It used to be 6 acres there, but they put that shed there, Bobby's grandpa did. But anyways, it's, like you see, it's beautiful soils. It's beautiful soils. But my thing is that, like I say, me and my family own the farm and feedlot next to the property, applying for the variance. And zoning rules exist for a purpose, allowing a dwelling 205 feet from our feedlot instead of the minimum 1,000 feet doesn't make sense. That's why I recommend this variance to be denied. The kids are taking over the farm, and it's going to be a lot harder to manage with the dwelling 200 feet from our feed lot. And then, like I said, the county has ordinance on this prime soils, which you guys all know. And I don't know what else to say, but my kids have something to say. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, just state your name and address first for us.
Jared Weezer, 430 Coronado Circle, Onalaska. I'm Jared Weezer, the son of Steve Weezer, who just spoke, who owns the farm and cattle feedlot at the end of Sunnyside Road, only 205 feet from where this variance is being requested. We're not comfortable with the variance because it's way too close to our family farm. The property would come right up to the edge of the feedlot where my dad's bulls, cows, heifers, and calves live. Having been around my dad's cattle, I know how spooked they can get when they see anyone who's not my dad, and they can just become unruly and even aggressive at times. The only person they're really comfortable around is my dad, and we wouldn't want to put them into a situation that could harm their health and production. And secondly, just building a home this close is just not in the best interest of public health. There are constant odors from the manure produced in the feedlot. It attracts bugs, especially flies in the summertime, which become rampant, and it would just negatively affect not only residents, but potential future residents, any pets they may have, any, other personnel that would come for the building or anything like that, for the building of the proposed dwelling. So therefore, we oppose this variance because of the negative effects it would have on our family farm, prospective residents, and just the future of our family farm. Thanks.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. Sorry, for either one of you, you walked away really fast. So the 2 acres they're recommending to purchase, you guys currently farm or
Me and
you
my
rent.
dad.
So will the new potential property owners that want to build there still have that same arrangement with you? Or are they planning to take all those acres out of production?
No, it's just a year, by year.
Okay, so, but I'm just,
I guess that'd be a question for the applicant.
Yeah.
Okay,
And as I
all right.
stated at the end, like, we would want to leave a section there, so the rest of the field and part of that 2 acres is accessible and can be used
Okay.
for production.
okay, thank you.
But could I ask a question?
Could you come up to the mic, please? Thank you.
You said, is it north going up on that?
Yes, it is.
Schematic.
Yes.
You were planning, one of the reasons you had that space also is for your septic and drain field.
Correct. Yep.
And you would not be able to till over that.
Ideally, we would put that off in this area, but say if you drew a line, you would still have access here to the rest of this field that's currently in production.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else like to speak for or against this application?
Hi, I'm Caitlin Delarwell, 540 Larch Ave. I live in the Crescent. That's my dad. He owns the feedlot to the farm in question here, and I have a few concerns after hearing about it. If I could just point out, like in this feedlot, this right here is where the cow, we call it the cow yard. Right here is where the cows kind of hang out and reside. That's where they're fed. And that's where they enter and exit from the barn. So it's a very high traffic area for the cows and the livestock. And I think that's probably my biggest concern is having a residential dwelling that close to where the livestock are. It can cause them to be spooked and it can cause them stress. And if you cause the animal stress, they can produce less. And then they can just do like aggregated, like agitated behaviors, right? Like try to get out, get aggressive, things like that. So that would be kind of my biggest concern. I think my second concern is one thing my brother stated, and I can attest to this growing up on the farm, is just public safety, right? So like there's a lot of equipment that goes in and out, as you can imagine, like combines, tractors, feed trucks, like all the equipment coming in and out. It's a very high traffic area, I would say, on the farm. And then as far as that cow yard I mentioned where the cows hang out, they keep like large bulls there, right? And they keep cows that have just had calves. So those are two types of animals you definitely like do not want to aggravate or get close to, especially if they're not familiar with you. So I think for those are the two main reasons I guess I have concern with it. Also, I think just a residential dwelling there being so close, like there's just a nuisance, right? Like you're gonna have manure, you're gonna have smells, you're gonna have flies. And that might not be concern for the current owners, but if it would ever change ownership, I think it would just be a concern there. So those are my
Right.
thoughts.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak for or against this application? Please just state your name and address first, please.
Larry Nagel, 41562 County Road 12. I was coming to support my neighbor Steve. I don't think 205 feet is enough, even with a variance for a feed, with a feedlot that close. That basically all, all I got to say.
Right, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak for or against this permit or application? For the second time, if there's anyone who would like to speak for or against this application, please come forward now or unmute yourself if you're online or on the phone. And for the third and final time, if there's anyone who would like to speak for or against this application, please come forward and state your name and address.
Kathy Heyer, 39805 County Road 12, Bobby's stepmom. Dan and his dad couldn't be here today, but we very much support this in that we support his desire to work, to move out to the country, and we're also glad that would be able to help us as we continue to age. And with the property that we have, that Dan's really proud of that property because obviously it came from his dad. And we still have the other property there too, that's the estate that we're managing through the current residence life lease. And we just wanted to say that we support Bobby in this petition. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, again, would anyone like to speak for or against this application?
Do I have the opportunity to say one more thing that's not probably in your documents, but more in the application, permit application?
Yeah, you can certainly, you're the applicant, so.
Sorry, the last piece I want to throw in there is the intent is to own all of the acreage at some point in time. Splitting it at this point gets us where we need to be at this point in time. Again, parents are getting up there. The intent is to buy the rest of it out, so we don't plan on going anywhere. I know plans can change, and I've heard that from a couple of people in this room. But being 43 years old, I don't intend on going anywhere once I get to where I've wanted to move back to. So the intent is to rejoin the properties if and when we have the opportunity to. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, would anyone like to speak for or against this application? And for the second time, if anyone would like to speak for or against this application, please come forward to the microphone. And for the third and final time, if anyone would like to speak for or against this application, please come forward at this point. All right, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Ed, seconded by Lynn to close the meeting to the public. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Discussion. What are your thoughts, feelings?
So I'll break the ice. I think it's admirable that a family member would like to do what is being proposed. However, I think the people on this board know that I thoroughly respect the comprehensive plan of this county. I respect the zoning ordinance of the county. And I respect the staff's position and recommendations that they provide to us. And in the past, at least in my memory, when there have been variances granted regarding prime soils, almost consistently, those prime soils have been either in the woods or have not been in cultivation. The comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance encourage agricultural use. I believe granting the variance would be contrary to the spirit, the intent, and the language of the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance. And in addition to the soils issue, what I've heard from the neighbors regarding the proximity of the existing feedlot to the home would again be inconsistent with the spirit, intent, and language of the zoning ordinance. And I don't think it would be a good practical use for either the new parcel, if it were to be granted by this board and the planning commission, or more importantly, for the existing use as recited by the Weezer family. So for all of those reasons, I believe the variance is inappropriate and does not meet the criterion for the granting of the variance.
If I could, Lou, could I ask you a question quick? It seems to me, or this feels kind of similar to, I don't know, planning commission requests that we've heard for like, healthcare of a relative or something. In that case, would you still be looking at a feedlot setback, like an accessory parcel or a secondary dwelling on this parcel?
So if it was a manufactured home, I guess the difference that you're looking at there is that it's, in that regard, it's the idea is that the dwelling would be temporary in nature. So it's there to provide a home for somebody while that relationship occurs, where there's healthcare being provided, or if there's farm help, like that service is being provided through that dwelling. In this case, that's there might be some of that still same kind of connection, but this is a permanent dwelling location that's being,
Gotcha.
And they're
proposed. So
selling
that's
it
the
too,
difference.
Right, so to him, correct?
Mm.
Yeah, it'd be parceled off.
Yeah.
Right, to be separated and, yeah.
Okay.
So it is a standalone. They do indicate though that they're looking at consolidating the 6 acres, in the future at some point. But at this point, what we're looking at is permitting a 2 acre lot that
I
would
guess I'm
stand on
just
its own.
curious for a little bit of extra information. Does a feedlot
Does the feedlot setback still pertain?
Yeah.
I do believe it would, unless it's for the feedlot operator and owner themselves.
okay, if it was
So
on
in
the same parcel?
in this case, it would still pertain
Okay.
to that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Question, thanks.
So, are we discussing them?
Yeah.
also? As far as having another option of where they could build. He mentioned a couple, but is he gonna run into issues there as far, again, as being too close to the road or too close to someone's property
I
line,
think there's still,
too close to this or that?
I think it's still all within 1,000 feet. Would that be correct? There's no point of this parcel that would be outside of the feedlot setback?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, it's just a matter of whether it's 200 feet versus, 400, 500 feet. But yeah, the 1,000-foot setback does encompass the entire 6 acres and the roughly 2 to 3 acres of the neighboring property to the south as well.
So even if he moved it where his grandfather's property was in that southern corner, it would still be
You'd
too close.
still need a variance to, you still need to grant the variance in order to allow that location.
I mean, just looking at this map, that doesn't look like as nice a location to put a house.
I think the only reason you mentioned that is you were looking for a place that wasn't prime soils under tillage. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And, if his purpose is to help his family, and a temporary structure was put on one of these properties until such time that then he would be able to get all of the other 2 properties, he wouldn't need to build a dwelling on this space.
That's a good point.
But, that's just what I'm hearing from him and from his stepmother said. His help is needed and, part of alleviating the variances or working around the variances might be accessory temporary dwelling to help family members. That's why.
Well, when you look
that-
at his
But-
stepmother, I believe it is.
Yeah.
She doesn't look real old. I don't think she's
No.
gonna die anytime soon.
But
So,
the grandmother.
They're gonna have to
down
wait
here-
20, 30 years for that to happen before they can build, and he's gonna be in his 70s, so
No,
you
I'm
know.
not saying that, but I'm just saying he mentioned that he's there to help his family. And so in my mind, I was.
it would make
thinking
sense for him to be
It
closer,
would
you're
make,
saying?
it would make sense if he was thinking about a court, he would eventually get all the parcels anyway. Why spend all the money and time and variances building a house when he could potentially, if he's gonna have 3 houses at some point then, what are you doing? Well,
Well, and I live a mile up the road, so.
Oh.
We can't get in and out of the Bobcat, to
Okay.
plow
Yeah.
us out. And then we have to plow out that property that he's talking about and plow out the estate property. So there's a lot of stuff.
Just to be clear, I think it's a different party that owns the house on County Road 12 to the south.
It is.
Yeah.
The 6.2 acres does not currently have a dwelling on it at all. There is.
oh.
There is nobody
This
living
is his
on that
great
property.
house. The one- No, right here. He's talking about
That upside down
the
L
one that
shape?
looks like that the shed is on.
Correct. There is no
Oh, I thought
residence
that
there.
was the house.
In the application.
Okay.
There's no residence there.
Okay.
Yeah, if I may, this is his grandfather's property here, and there is a dwelling right here. Here are a couple of sheds, but no dwelling in this location on the existing 6 acres.
Okay.
Is that a parcel that would not require a 40-acre?
No, it would. It's not a parcel of record.
Okay.
Could he build a house on there?
You're saying, could they build a house in this location? Not without the variance, the same 2 variances that we're talking about now. Of course, it is a different calculation because you're tillable versus not tillable, you're 500 feet or so versus 205 feet. I mean, there's there's differences in that application, but the variances would still be required. They would still not meet those standards.
But it'd be more likely to be allowed. Being that it's not.
I think it might be easier to come up with findings.
Yeah, and you wouldn't be on the same road as the feedlot either in that scenario, which, might be look a little better to the person operating that.
The applicant did mention that then that's where I got confused because maybe I just can't see the driveway, but he said his dad would be landlocked if he had a building in that spot because
Yes,
he's had
I
the
recall.
driveway. But then I'm unsure if that's not a house. Where's the house in relation or how would they be landlocked?
It's just the sheds would be.
I think he wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to access his buildings, his
But
you
it
know.
would just need an easement to allow that.
Yeah, but that activity then I think right next, I think they're thinking, if I may speak to that, to that a little bit, from my conversations with the applicant is that, I think that they're thinking that it's, those activities aren't necessarily conducive to their home, you know, them building a home there. They don't want to be on top of their father and what he has going on there and vice versa. So, and I would say also that we don't have all these other, you know, scenarios, that those aren't what's before us today. We have to act on specifically what is being proposed and what's before us.
Just follow up on what you just said. It's your understanding that putting the home to the west, closer to his father's farming activities, is undesirable?
It's, yes, I think that's been indicated. I don't know that it's farming activities, but his use within within those sheds, especially the bigger one there. I don't know if he's doing more mechanic type, you know.
Basically, we want to give him the space for his semis, the 11 tractors that we have on the property, all of the other things that are going on there, without hindering him.
But essentially what we then have is moving it to the east, south of an existing farming operation.
Mhm.
There's almost an antagonism going on there also. So no matter where the house goes, it's gonna conflict with
There's,
somebody's activity,
yep, it's not ideal.
which maybe
Yeah.
indicates that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the reason we ended up with this as an ordinance in the first place.
It appears in spite of our best effort to imagine scenarios. The facts before us are the facts we have to operate on. And that is the prime soils and the adjacent, really, feedlot, if I'm correct. Those are the two issues. And I think that those are important issues. I think that the continuity of those prime soils is important to the comprehensive plan. And as well as the adjacent feedlot.
Yeah, I think this application, I think he's done a great job of trying to minimize the footprint as far as the prime soils goes. And normally I would be in favor of that. Had the feedlot operator was, you know, a family member or someone who was in favor of this being there, I think I would feel a lot differently about it.
So do we all agree that the four, highlighted 2, 3, 4, and 7, yeah, are appropriate the way they are? I agree.
So I'll make a motion that the variance request be denied and the findings of fact, numbers 2, 3, 4, and 7 be modified as follows. Number 2, the variance request is not consistent with the comprehensive plan. Number 3, the applicant has not established there are practical difficulties in complying with the official control and purposes. And number 4, the variance request is not due to special circumstances or conditions unique to the property. and would be created by owners of the property. Number 7. The variance request is not the minimum variance, which would alleviate the alleged practical difficulty. The other findings would remain the same.
I do have a second on that motion.
I second that motion.
We have a motion by Ed, seconded by Amy, to deny this variance request with the changes to the findings of fact and removal of the conditions. Does that sound correct, Ed?
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is all in favor. With this request being denied, I will read the appeal to the district court. All decisions by the Board of Adjustment in granting variances or in hearing appeals from any administrative order, requirement, decision, or determination shall be final, except that any aggrieved person or persons or any department, board, or commission of the jurisdiction or of the state shall have the right to appeal within 30 days after the receipt of the notice of the decision to the district court in the county in which the land is located on questions of law and fact. Any party that would like to submit an appeal to the decision just rendered at this public hearing must do so to the district court. The planning department is not responsible for filing the appeal. All right, and with that, we'll move on to docket number BOA 09-18-2503. Petition of Ridgeway Community Association. That is Aaron.
Good morning, or actually good afternoon, board members. I'll welcome and encourage questions. So if you have any as I'm going through it, please do not hesitate to interject. As you said, the applicant is Joni Danzenberg, and she's applying on behalf of the Ridgeway Community Association. And she's seeking a variance to reduce the minimum setback from a rear property line. The reduced setback would be for a larger, although not large scale, small scale ground mounted, as defined in the county ordinance, ground mounted solar array. So it would be a 13-foot by 380-foot ground mounted array. Also called in ordinance a solar collector, also called in ordinance a solar energy system. This would be located on a site with a long established school that's on plus or minus 7¼ acres. Here's a site map. Go here so I can point some things out. So in red here along the back, you see the outline of the proposed array. This is drafted to scale, and it's relying on the county parcel fabric to determine where that back line would go. The applicant has indicated that prior to construction, should the variance be granted, they would have a surveyor remark these corners, which are already marked by survey, and also set the location of the proposed array. Other things of note on the parcel would be the long established school. So the 2 polygons here labeled other, that is because we do not have or that is because I do not have a category for a school in this district because there are very few schools. But those are the original school buildings. 2 additions have been placed on the school since that time. There are several accessory buildings on the property, and there are also accessory structures or infrastructure, I'd call it. So we have a large geothermal heating system installed here, and we have a large septic drain field installed there.
What is the age of that drain field there?
2007.
Okay, thank you.
Is that where it says trench?
Correct. That's a trench is an in-ground drain field system. Here you're looking at zoning information. So green is the Agricultural Resource Conservation District. purple is the Community Development District. So the ordinance citations that are applicable to this request, we have 9.2 authorizing solar energy systems as accessory uses in all districts. And then as we move further into that section, we see that the location within lot, it says solar energy systems must meet the accessory structure setback for the zoning district. And then even more granular, ground mounted solar energy systems may not extend into the side yard or rear setback when oriented at minimum design tilt. We move to the district language in chapter 10, and we see the performance standards which lay out the applicable rear and side yard setbacks. And we see it refers us to table 10.2, which establishes those distances at 20 and 50 feet respectively. And then we move on to chapter 12.3, which again tells us what a solar energy system is and what standards it must adhere to. It says all solar energy systems shall comply with the following standards. We're talking in this case about a small scale solar energy system, and it must, within its location on lot, small scale ground mounted solar energy systems must meet the structural setback standards for the zoning district when oriented at medium or minimum design tilt. So that very similar language as above, really driving home that point because it's in there twice.
So is the variance needed because the tilt is gonna be too close or the actual system itself?
Well, I think when they're talking about tilt, we're talking about the panels themselves being attached to some sort of racking system. And some of those systems have the ability to move throughout the day to follow the sun. So I think what that language refers to is when it is at minimum tilt, meaning nearly flat, it would extend the closest to an applicable line at that point. And that is the point at which you would apply the setback standard.
Okay, so the actual spot where it's being mounted is far enough back? It's the stretch of the panels?
Yeah, I think you could maybe think of it as the furthest protrusion toward that line or furthest, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So I said it was a long established school. Here we're looking at a 1966 Winona Daily News article in which families are being invited to visit the new school building. I'll note that that date, that 1966, is before the county had a zoning ordinance in effect or a zoning scheme to regulate land use. Here we're looking at an oblique aerial of the proposal. So you see the school in the front, and then you see the proposed panels far back toward the rear of the parcel.
And
so-
Aaron, just again, for my benefit.
Yeah.
The proposed panels are shown up in this exhibit in red.
Correct, in red, yes.
What is the parcel adjacent to the proposed panels? What is that
So the parcel adjacent to the proposed panels in terms of its
use?
observed use, immediately adjacent, it would be row crops. Further back, and you can kind of see it here as we get down into that valley, there's a rock quarry. And then that rock quarry is accessed via that road there. And I believe this is a scale facility that's used in conjunction with that rock quarry.
So the immediately adjacent parcel is cropland?
Cropland, and I will have a photograph of that further on in the presentation.
So those gray structures behind what would be the solar array
Yep,
are not silos or,
not structures at all. Those are generic trees.
okay.
They're actually plums, but Esri does not have a plum icon, so those are the generic variety.
Thank you.
So in Pleasant Hill Township, again, about a 7.25 acre parcel off of County Road 12 and located in a rural setting. Here we're looking at the same property from a different vantage point, looking at it from the east. And we can appreciate from this vantage point the legacy development. And by legacy development, I mean, before there was a zoning scheme, we decided to build a school here. If you're going to put an addition on a school that existed before a zoning scheme, it needs to be connected to that school. So then we ended up with additions on either end of that pre-zoning school. If you're going to have a school, you need to treat wastewater. So we have a expansion of accessory incidental use here. If you're going to have a school, you need to heat and cool it. We have here the geothermal system, all located in the places on the parcel that were most suitable for all those things. Drain fields do not last forever. You know, they have a lifespan. Hopefully this one's lifespan will be very, very, very long, but at some point it may need to be replaced. So if we look at this parcel, as a result of that legacy development, where would one think a replacement drain field might go? Oh, none of us are septic designers, but just looking at the available space, one would probably think a designer would go to that parcel and look in this area right here, and that it's the only area that's currently undeveloped and has a large enough area to accommodate something like that.
Aaron, is that a running track around that yellow rectangle?
Correct. Running, I think just like a sports track
area?
might be yes. Before I leave from this image too, so that sports track, that's a good thing to point out. You know, the septic's a good thing to point out. The geothermal would be a good thing to point out. A solar energy system, again, we're looking from the east. So this is oriented to the south. If you're going to install solar panels, they need to face south, right? So we need to find a location on this parcel where you have a long enough area to accommodate that size panel, which is designed to accommodate the power usage of the school. It's not designed to sell energy back to the system in large part. It may be interconnected, but as I understand it, the design is foremost to provide the power the school uses. So one could, in theory, place them here and move the geothermal system and move the drain field and take the track out and redesign all of that. Now that would be very expensive, and that is a consideration in this case. It's one of the things they looked at, but it's not the foremost thing it was looked at. The foremost thing would be the optimal performance of the panels in that location according to the solar designer, and the necessity to preserve a future location for a drain field.
And you will show us actual photographs of the density of the trees to the north of the proposed solar panels, right?
Yes, I will have some photos of that thicket. It is my understanding that many of those trees may need to be grubbed out to accommodate the panel. It is my understanding that the panel is not proposing to face the other way, which still would require the variance, just because you would not get optimal performance with a solar system pointing to the north.
This is just from my understanding. Are the trees on the school's property or the adjacent property owner?
This particular slide does not show it well. The property line here is that turquoise bluish color, so you can kind of see it there. I believe it is on the school's property. So there you see the property line right
Yes.
behind the trees. So here we have some of that legacy development. This is a photograph of the geothermal coils being installed. Here we have on our my left, this is the location of the current drain field. This flag here marks the termination point of the furthest north trench. And as I pointed to earlier on a previous slide, where might a future drain field go should they need to replace? Well, it would in all likelihood go in this area here, which is to the north of the geothermal system. Now, if we place the solar system there, could a future drain field go there? Likely not. And then solar suitability. So again, solar systems generally face to the south. In this on this slide, we see the checkered red line in this case, approximated where the system would go. And we see some analysis done with a tool created by the U of M that estimates solar suitability, and they show that it is a good location for a solar system. And then the pictures you were inquiring about. So here we have the area to the south of the trees, the thicket in the back, and the solar system would be, I believe this yellow flag denotes where. Right, we're looking west here, so that'd be the front. It would likely require the removal of some trees to fit them in. And then here we're looking to the east from the other side, essentially, and we're looking down the back of the thicket. And we see, you know, if we get beans in, it looks like this here. But the property line, you know, would be somewhere in this location, we expect. The permitting history. So in 2007, the county issued a zoning certificate for a 6,246 square foot west addition, a toilet room, an LTC upgrade to re-roof the existing building, asbestos abatement to upgrade the HVAC, and a new septic. So a full shopping cart of activities approved on that permit. In 2008, we had a SSTS, so a septic permit issued for that trench system. And in 2011, a development certificate was issued to add 2 classrooms to the north of the existing structure. From the town board and the public, from the township, we got acknowledgement that they were notified, but no comments. And then we did receive a letter of support from a adjoining landowner, Tim Kohner, and he would be the owner of the property to the north, all adjacent to the lot line from which the variance is sought. And in conclusion, the committee should consider all materials and testimony before making findings that support their decision. Staff analysis provides guidance for drafting findings, and the county attorney's office has prepared draft findings for your consideration. And should the committee recommend approval, the county attorney's office has also proposed conditions for your consideration. Any questions for me?
Think further from me.
I also have questions for Aaron.
No.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Would the petitioner like to come forward and address the board? State your name and address for us, please.
Jody Dancingberg. My home address is 30972 Zephyr Valley Lane, Rushford, Minnesota. I'm in Wiscoy Township. I think Aaron did a great job of explaining our circumstances. As he mentioned, this is not a large solar development. It's been sized to support the electrical needs of the school. It does face a little bit southwest, and the thinking in that is not only that it fits within the property situation, but also it would generate more solar power in the late afternoon when the demand rate is the highest for Xcel utilities, which would be beneficial both for our production and then the way Xcel pays people for their solar energy. I'm not an expert, but you know what I mean. Yeah, the different price variations when they're under the highest demand. Our use of electricity at the school is higher in the wintertime. So the geothermal system supports our entire heating and air conditioning of the school. And there is some supplemental electric heat that has to kick on in the dead of the winter to keep us on. So our electric use is actually higher in the winter and lower in the summer. So adding the solar into the grid, and it would be a grid-tied solar system, does kind of support the needs of the greater community, and that we would be generating electricity that we didn't need when the demand is the highest by the community in the summertime during those really hot days, and using it when the demand is lower. So it's kind of an aside, but from the conditions that talk about the welfare of the community, Our school, in addition to serving approximately 120 students, we provide summer childcare for 50 to 60 children, some of which are students of the school and some of which are go to other schools, but are children in the community. And the school does serve as a community center. There really isn't another community center other than the little meeting room next to the Ridgeway Fire Hall, Township Hall. We have, open it up for showers, craft fairs. Even we've had a couple of memorial services there. So our goal in moving to the solar production is to help with the long-term maintenance costs of the building and supporting the school financially. It will be beneficial to us financially, saving us, once the system is paid off, $25,000 or more a year as the electric rates continue to increase. So hopefully promoting the longevity of the school to continue to serve the students and the community. But as far as all the technical details that Aaron described with respect to our septic system and our geothermal field, I think he did a good job of explaining all of that. That hedgerow that it would be located in is going to have to be grubbed out to some degree. So on the south side of that, we wouldn't hit the, we're going to get the surveyors out to remark out and mark out where the 25-foot setback would be, and then we would grub out the shrubs that we would need to install the solar array, but wouldn't remove the shrubs between where the solar array would be and the neighboring property. So there would still be some kind of a vegetative barrier between the neighbor's property and the agriculture that would be continue to go on there and where the solar array is. It's mostly plum trees, some old Caragana dying shrubs that were probably planted in the 70s, lots of raspberries. It's very hard to walk through there right now. So yeah, we would have some expense in grubbing that out, but would try to preserve a vegetative road just to block that. There's a farm some distance away that would be able to see the back of it, but the other thing is we feel the visual impact to the community would be minimized by the location of the array on this north edge of the property. It's going to be pretty much out of sight of neighboring landowners.
Actually, some people think that the visual appeal of solar arrays is attractive.
Yes.
Goes both ways a lot.
Yeah.
Can you reconfirm for us that the property owner who has the farm parcel to the north is in support of your application?
Yep, I have the original copy of his signed letter there. So Tim Kohner is the property owner. He owns, I'm not sure how many acres of agricultural land, and also owns the gravel pit that you saw in the pictures. So he leases the agricultural land. But he's supportive. He's been a good neighbor to us.
Was rooftop solar considered at all?
It was. We did reach out to the contractor that put that roof on in the 2007 editions is AB Systems out of Rochester. And they said they would not guarantee the roof if we were to put solar panels on it. So that was the first thing we looked into, and that was a number of years ago. And so we've kind of been looking into other options, and this option was able to present itself. Part of why it's taken us a while to get up here is that initially there were a number of larger community solar garden arrays proposed for that electrical service line that Xcel owns. And so they weren't taking any other applications. So it wasn't until just recently that those applications had been withdrawn, and we were able to put in a proposal to Xcel to be considered. And so we are pretty much through the process with them of having all their approvals in place. We're hoping to get this project built and online by the end of December. And it's being set up in a lease to own arrangement with a solar developer, which is Min Solar out of St. Charles. And he is giving us a really nice deal. He's taking off, so he would get the 30% tax credit, and the 20% depreciation is taking off the final price of what he's charging us. So pretty much getting it for half price. So yeah, very lucky and advantageous to us as financially. Mhm.
All right, do we have any other
Questions?
for the applicant?
My name's Luke Blahnik. I have the property to the west of the school. And I'm not necessarily opposed to this, but I am kind of curious. I don't
Okay.
know anything about what these things, what kind of noise they might make, or,
We'll have to wait for you till the public hearing is open. Sorry, this is just the applicant speaking right now.
all right, well, you asked about questions, so I thought I'd just.
Yep, sorry. All right, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Stop him from talking and then we'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I make a motion, we open to the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Amy, seconded by Lynn to open the hearing to the public. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There are none opposed. So with that, Luke, you could unmute yourself again. If you'd like to say anything for or against this petition, now is the time.
Yeah, well, as you already know, I'm the owner of the property to the west, and like I said, I'm not really well informed on what kind of noises these things might make, or if it could possibly reduce the value of my property. I mean, I guess I'm not really familiar. Is there anybody that can maybe educate me a little on this before I decide if I'm against it or for it?
I've worked in the solar industry and am a contractor, so I can speak a little bit to the amount of noise would be. I mean, you'd have to be standing next to it, the inverters, to hear anything, and even then, it would be pretty minimal.
That's anytime, even I don't know if they operate more at night during the day when the kids aren't there. I guess I'm not sure how that works, but you're talking 24/7 then.
Well, when the sun's shining, they're going to be generating power, and that's when you would get a little hum from the inverters, possibly. But those are insulated and sealed, and I mean, you'd have to be on their property to hear anything from those.
And it depends on where they put them. Some of them don't like the cold, so they might be indoors.
Yeah, it might not even be on the array.
Hear anything. I live all off grid. My inverter I can turn it on and off from inside my house. I turn it off at night because it actually uses more power to run it at night than I'm absorbing. So I just turn it off and I just use my backup battery power. So they would just be using regular electricity since they're on the grid. So I don't, unless something happens like did at my house where it gets hit by lightning and stuff blows up, you're not going to hear a single thing. I don't know. I guess I don't know. They didn't mention how if they're gonna move with the sun or not. I still had one of those until this year, and that didn't make any noise either. But it was just one panel. It wasn't a whole array, so I'm not sure on that. But if they're basically just staying at the same angle, they're not going to make any noise.
Okay. Well, I have a concern. I have a small hobby farm. It's not a big property that I own, but I have a very small hobby farm. I'd be not only concerned about myself, but if it might possibly cause issues with my hair sheep that I have out there. If they start getting loose, or if something scares them, I guess I'd be a little concerned about that. But it sounds like that's probably not going to be an issue. But again, I don't know a lot about these things. I guess I don't know if there's possible radiation issues that might occur. I guess I don't know. I guess I'm all for solar energy and I'm all for the school saving money and doing this project. But I guess I just want to, maybe put an objection on record, even though I doubt anyone's gonna second it. just throw that on the record, just so, you know, just so it's on the public, just so it's made, it's been made announced.
Okay, could you just state your address for the record so we can note that?
35374 County Road 12, Houston, Minnesota 55943.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
I think she wanted. to
yeah, if
rebut.
you
I just
to
wanted to say that it is a fixed array. It would not be tilting.
Okay.
And we did situate it so there would be some vegetative blockage so that he wouldn't be able to, there would be some trees between it and the east property line, so it'd be hard to see.
Okay. That's okay. All right, would anyone else like to speak for or against this petition?
Good afternoon. Sarah Bloom, 28878 Royal Grant Road, Dakota, Minnesota. I am just here to say that we are for this. I also am a parent of a child that goes to Ridgeway Community School. And I also know that electricity costs are not getting any cheaper. And so if they are able to build this and generate their own, I think that's wonderful. And that they should take advantage of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, if anyone would like to speak for or against this petition, now's the time to come forward and state your name and address. For the second time, if anyone would like to speak for or against this petition, please come forward and state your name and address. And for the third and final time, if anyone would like to speak for or against this petition, please come forward and state your name and address. I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this point.
Make a motion to close the public hearing. I'll second.
We have a motion by Kelsey, seconded by Amy to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, that is all in favor. Discussion.
I think as long as the neighbor to the north that it's grass seems supportive of it.
Yeah, and they're meeting the setbacks on the other sides, so.
And make a motion to approve with the conditions. The one condition listed.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Kelsey, seconded by Ed to, for approval as written in the staff report with the attached condition. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that is all in favor. I'll read the appeal once more. Appeal to the district court. All decisions by the Board of Adjustment in granting variances or in hearing appeals from any administrative order, requirement, decision, or determination shall be final except that any aggrieved person or persons or any department, board, or commission of the jurisdiction or of the state shall have the right to appeal within 30 days after the receipt of the notice of the decision to the district court in the county in which the land is located on questions of law and fact. Any party that would like to submit an appeal to the decision just rendered at this public hearing must do so to the district court. The planning department is not responsible for filing the appeal. And we'll move on to docket number BOA 09-18-2504 to consider the petition of Kelly Anderson for a single-family dwelling on prime soils.
Good
Olivia.
afternoon. So I'm closing out with the last docket. I think you got all of us today. So this request is for a new dwelling on class 2 and 3 soils instead of class 4 through 8 in the Agriculture Resource Conservation Zoning District. It is in St. Charles Township off of Cherokee Road. Currently it's a 71-acre parcel. It's proposed to be split into 2. So the home would be on a 31-acre parcel and then there would be a 40-acre to the south. This is a couple of site plans that staff created that I created. So you can see the home, there would be the outline in red. You can see that it's located on class 2 soils. Class 3 are shown in pink, class 2 are in blue. And then on the right, on that larger aerial, it shows kind of the hatched area where the parcel is being proposed to be split. It should be noted too that the existing parcel makeup is still over the amount of prime soil. So even if it weren't to be split, they would still need a variance from the prime soil standards of the ordinance. They are proposing to locate the dwelling outside of that existing field, so in the wooded area. And I have a couple of photos showing that, but essentially it's going to be a straight shot through that field into where they're proposing the home to be located. It is an existing field approach, so it would be off of that township road and they would be going to the township for approval. There's also an existing shed on site to the south as well. Some of the considerations, it is 56% prime soils. That's using the 31-acre boundary that they're proposing for the split. They're proposing to either maintain the existing crop field or transition it to native grassland. It is pretty much as far south on Cherokee Road as you can get. There is a dead end turnaround down there. There's a pending sale for the 40-acre split, and then it does require a conditional use permit to be granted. So through Planning Commission and the County Board tonight. I'll show two before I move on to the photos. You can see here in both of these prime soil maps that there's really not an area of that 31-acre split that is not prime soil. That's also not either steep slopes or a drainage way. So a lot of that wooded area is steeper slopes and would take a lot more to develop a new home on. So they're proposing to get it out of that field, but in the wooded area that is still technically considered prime soils.
But confirm for us, and it's obvious then, the wooded area is not in agricultural cultivation.
Correct.
Is there a house on the other parcel that they're splitting it off of, or is it vacant?
Undeveloped at this point, correct.
Where would that split line be?
So if you can see the shed on the one to the left, I'll point it out.
Is that a driveway next to the shed?
Yeah, so there is an access for that shed. So it's right to the south of that existing drive. It would just come straight across here.
Oh, so it's the dotted line.
Right, yep. So this is the total 71-acre parcel right now. And then this hatched line would be where they're proposing to split. Yep.
So, excuse me, Olivia, if you just go back, because the picture I have, I've been supplied with, and where the, where the red outline is, the class blue looks as though it's different than the woodland on the map I have. So is that class 2 behind the red outline of the proposed site, class 2 woodland?
Right. Which page are you looking at on your packet?
This brown one.
Which page is it?
It doesn't have a number, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's that picture.
It is. It might just look different because the prime soils is a beige. And so that on the right
Behind the-
aerial, that is showing 1, 2, and 3 altogether.
Okay, so the lighter colored where the house is like the prime 2, and then the darker ones are prime 3.
No, so there's no breakout on this photo on the right. All of the lighter color is prime soil. So this is not prime right here. So it follows, this is just a better definition of where 2 and 3
So when
show.
you put your finger on the home.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Nope.
And then you go back onto the prime, and then you look at the other schematic. The house behind the house is prime soil.
Correct. So these are the
Okay.
same prime soil maps.
Okay.
This one is just all one color,
And
whereas
it's-
this one is 2 different colors.
Right, and it's not woodland, or it is woodland right behind the house?
All of this is woodland. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, even though it looks different. I mean, to me. Anyone else?
I mean, because it's different colors, you mean?
It's lighter, right?
It is lighter. Yep. So this is an overlay. So it's just a little bit transparent. That's why it looks different. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
So
but it's
it's
woodland.
correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So getting into some of the site photos, like I mentioned, it is utilizing an existing access. It pretty much goes from Cherokee Road about 500 feet straight to the east to get to that home site. You can see that existing shed in the photo off in the background. This is looking north up Cherokee Road. And then this is down to the south. You can see the dead end sign there. You can see the road start to curve. That's the turnaround for Cherokee Road. And then this is the proposed home site. Right now it's wooded, so there's really not too much to see in terms of distinguishing where you are. However, it would be a straight shot back from that existing field. So it'd be outside of the field area, but the driveway would go through that field. And then this is looking west up through the field, and then Cherokee Road would be up in the distance. So St. Charles Township did indicate that they had no comments with regard to the request. The petitioner went on July 19th to the meeting. We have not received any neighbor comments or any public comments as well for this petition. So our recommendation would be that you consider all materials and testimony before making findings that support your decision. Our analysis and draft findings do support granting the variance. And in your packets, we have drafted 4 conditions for your consideration. Any questions for me at this point?
Olivia, you go back to the illustration you were pointing to. Yes. Is this area in cultivation?
It is.
Will it remain in cultivation, production?
They've indicated it would either remain in production or transition to native grassland. Yep. Mhm.
Any other questions for Olivia?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would the petitioner like to address the board? State your name and address for us.
Hi, I'm Kelly Anderson, 2111 Telemark Lane, Northwest Rochester. I'd like to thank you for your time today, and I would also like to express my appreciation to the county staff for their work. So I'm available if you have any questions.
May I?
Yeah, absolutely.
Olivia mentioned that you're either gonna keep the property that's in cultivation, also in cultivation or production, or let it go to native grass. Could you explain to me a little more detail on what your plans would be with that?
Some of it depends on what happens here, of course, and then also what how the township feels about drive access. We've considered a couple of different options. We do have access from the south, but it's not ideal. And it would be difficult if we wanted to avoid disrupting the prime soils that are currently set in alfalfa to come off of this corner, but there's a pretty steep grade there. And so it would create, in order to put a drive access to just avoid it. The most appealing route is to have drive access off of the field approach in the center.
The longhand drawing we saw with the driveway.
Yeah, the field approach, the current existing drive access is dead center. And so that would be the natural, most attractive route for me to access the property.
So if you did that, you would then, at the moment, keep it in agricultural production on either side of the driveway?
Yeah, the alfalfa was just planted this year. It's fertilized. It's in really good shape. So the preference would be to leave it at that. But at some point down the line, butterfly habitat or some sort of native grass would be
Yes.
something that I think would just look nice as a next to the home.
So did you plant the alfalfa or is there a local farm?
Oh, there's a local farmer.
And then he would
that-
harvest the hay?
Yeah. Hmm.
Does that, having that driveway affect, you know, his machinery, how he's gonna get from one side of the driveway to the other for the hay?
I don't think it would impact the access whatsoever. It's just going to reduce by a small margin the amount that he's able to harvest.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, Kelly, I understand that, you own the entire 71 acre parcel. And then you received a bid on the 40 acres to the, I'm gonna say south towards I-90, is that correct?
Correct. There has been a parcel split here.
Mhm.
And so the 40 acre, this piece here measures 40 acres
Mhm.
and has been sold to a local, local farmer that really wanted it for the pasture land potential that it has.
Okay. Is it currently in, tillage, beans or corn? Obviously.
Alfalfa.
Alfalfa,
Mhm.
okay.
Part of it is just pasture, because there's
see
some
that.
slopes here that we're dealing with. And yeah, you can see this is a different color. And I think that
Right.
just has to do with the topography. There's a pretty steep ravine here. This is more level. And so I think that's why you're seeing the color variation, but you've just got pasture land here there's a fence that goes all the way around it. And then you've got alfalfa.
And so behind your house is actually woods or what the proposed site?
Yeah, I started the process with preferring to have the home built in what is the tillable section. And when I learned about the 1 through 3 soils, I asked about, well, are there workarounds? And so, using part of the wooded piece as a way to preserve the prime soils is kind of my best effort at showing that I'm trying to follow the rules as best as I can.
Are the woods something you would consider, using? In the sense that perhaps, timber harvest or, timberland improvement or,
There's a management plan in place currently.
oh, there is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay, thank you.
Anything else for the petitioner? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I would entertain a motion to open the meeting to the public.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Ed, seconded by Lynn to open the meeting to the public. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. If anyone would like to speak for or against this petition, please come forward and state your name and address. For the second time, if anyone would like to speak for or against this petition, please come forward and state your name and address. And for the third and final time, if anyone would like to speak for or against this petition, please come forward now and state your name and address. Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a second.
We have a motion by Ed, seconded by Kelsey to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Hearing none opposed, that is all in favor. What do we think?
Seems reasonable to me. It seems reasonable, the request.
Yeah, I mean, he's agreed to put his house in the woods to avoid taking cropland out of production.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah, it's a pretty, I mean, it's a sizable parcel. I think I think he's doing his best to preserve as much land as he can there.
Right, the other piece is staying in production, staying agricultural, so, it's not up there anymore. The other piece is staying in production. And either the piece that he's going to build on is moved into the woods off the prime soils, and it will either be alfalfa still. Well, it will be for a while because that's a big investment to have recently seeded it. Or it will be some form of CRP type planting. So I think it's good use.
Do we need to consider imposing a condition that would specify that which has been represented, and that is it will stay in agricultural use or native grass or plant use? As opposed to, let's say, putting in a lawn or a play area or a basketball court, that type of thing.
I think the first condition would cover that, in my opinion. Just that the landowner will abide by all representations and commitments made during the permitting process as well as before the board.
I agree. Thank you.
So he's held accountable for having said that? Is that what I hear, George?
Yeah, it's on record, so if anyone were to take issue with his use of the land after that,
Yes.
this would be recorded, I suppose.
Okay, I understand.
And is that then, we have number 4 that has the staff. How does, can I ask a question of the staff? Olivia, how does that work? Do you have a diary system that every year it'll trigger a notice to the staff to inspect the property to see if there's been compliance with the representations made at the public hearing?
No. So we have our permitting system shows dates of approval and dates of that sort of thing, but it's typically on an as needed basis. So this condition is drafted to say shall allow us to inspect annually or as otherwise necessary. So if there are conditions or things a part of their project that we need to check up on in order to determine compliance, then we would go out at that point.
So you have no immediate intention to go out there annually to see if it's in cropland or native grass?
Correct. We will be out there at least 2 times in the immediate future for the zoning permit and the septic permit.
But after that, there's no regular inspection.
Correct.
Could I ask how often do aerial photographs be taken of that are referred to by the county for any reason?
I think Google Earth is down to annually, I want to say. Don't quote me on that, but if we needed to pull aerial imagery, for sure, once every couple of years. Yep. So the county pays for aerial photography to be flown that we use for our GIS purposes, but then there are alternative options as well for us to use if we need to.
So actually, it isn't necessary to do a site visit to check on something. You can use those systems online.
We could, yep, if we needed to, yep.
Or we could go out there once we're done serving on this board and check on it ourselves.
Or I could fly the airplane over.
Yeah.
It's a pretty drive.
Thanks, Olivia. All right, would anyone like to make a motion regarding this?
I would like to make the motion to approve the request and include the recommendations that the board has, the planning commission. Is that what I said?
The findings of fact
recommendations.
and conditions provided by staff.
Findings of fact and conditions provided by staff. Thank you, George.
You bet. Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Amy, seconded by Lynn to approve this application as written, with the findings of fact as written and the conditions attached to those. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is all in favor. For the last time today, I will read the appeal to the district court. All decisions by the Board of Adjustment in granting variances or in hearing appeals from any administrative order, requirement, decision, or determination shall be final, except that any aggrieved person or persons or any department or board or commission of the jurisdiction or of the state shall have the right to appeal within 30 days after the receipt of the notice of the decision to the district court in the county in which the land is located on questions of law and fact. Any party that would like to submit an appeal to the decision just rendered at this public hearing must do so to the district court. The planning department is not responsible for filing the appeal. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Lynn, seconded by Kelsey to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you, everyone.